Hello footy fans, welcome to another episode of Bev's Footy Show for the season of 2017. Massive episode coming up, so let's have a look at the episode again. I'm going to start off the show by having a look back at the results from finals week 1. It was a very interesting first week of finals, cracking in some sense as well. So I'll have a look at those results to start off the show. I'm then going to get into having a look at the results from the AFL Players Association MVP night, which was held on Tuesday night this week. A series of awards, including the Lee Matthews trophy, given out there. So I'll have a look at the results. I'm then going to get into my season ratings for the two teams that were knocked out in finals week 1. We'll explain a bit more about that when I get to it. The 5 talking points of the week is back this week, so I'll be getting into that before diving in to week 2 of the finals, the matches, as well as my tips. So lots to get through. Let's get straight in to the show, starting with the results from the week 1 of finals. So the first week of finals started on Friday night with the first qualifying final between the Adelaide Crows and the GWS Giants in front of a big crowd at the beautiful Adelaide Oval, and this was highly anticipated to be a good game of football. Of course, the Crows were missing notably Rory Sloane from the side, and the GWS Giants controversially dropped Stevie J during the week. So look, this game started off with the Crows leading at quarter time. It wasn't a convincing lead, but it was a pretty narrow lead, 3-4 to 1-4, the GWS Giants at quarter time. The second quarter was where the Crows really took it away from the Giants, because the Crows actually restricted the Giants to only 1 behind in the second quarter and led 8-7 to 1-5 at the half-time break, and then it just went on from there. Really, the Crows were able to dominate the Giants from basically the second quarter onwards and win the match quite comfortably and put them through to the preliminary finals straight through, and they will verse the winner out of next week's semi-final. The final score being the Crows 12-12-84 defeated the GWS Giants 6-12-48 in front of just under 53,000 at the Adelaide Oval. Let's get on to the Friday night game now, and this was a big match for both teams. Of course, Geelong finishing second, Richmond finishing third, just inside the top 4. This was the second qualifying final held on Friday night at the MCG in front of a massive crowd, and the Tigers started off beautifully. They led at quarter time 2-4 to Geelong with only 4 behinds. In fact, Geelong was scoreless for basically 3/4 of the first half. They kicked 2 very late and kept themselves within 9 points at half time. But the second half was all about the Tigers. They were able to put a convincing performance I should say, out on the park at the MCG in front of Geelong, and were able to win pretty convincingly, winning by just over 50 points, 51 points to be exact. The final score, Geelong 5-10-40, defeated by Richmond 13-13, 91. Let's have a look at just some stats here from the match. Richmond won its first final since 2001, ending, of course, the longest active winless streak in finals. So we were aware of that coming into the match. Richmond had its first win against Geelong since 2006, ending a 13-match hoodoo, of course. And it actually was its first win against Geelong at the MCG since 1999. So another defining, breaking hoodoo there, Rich were able to achieve. And just in terms of the crowd, 95,028 people attended this match. That was in fact the highest attendance for a final in week 1 or 2 of the finals in AFL VFL history. So that is pretty huge, and congratulations to everyone who turned out. Of course, I'm sure that especially the Richmond games, especially the prelim in a couple of weeks, are going to draw a massive, massive crowd. So yeah, big crowd there, and of course Richmond put themselves through to the preliminary final and have a chance now to make that one day in September. Let's get on to the Saturday games now, the elimination finals. The first one, the second elimination final, but the first one of the day was between the Sydney Swans and Essendon. You thought that this might be a pretty close game, considering the two teams when they met in the home and away season. Of course, we know Gary Rowan kicked a goal after the siren. It wasn't meant to be though for the Bombers. The Sydney Swans putting the game to bed in the second quarter. Buddy Franklin got injured in the first quarter, but was able to come back on and kick a heap of goals in the second quarter, and then could just rest on the bench for the second half basically. But yeah, the Swans blew the Bombers away pretty early and won by 65 points. The final score, the Sydney Swans 19-7. 121 defeated Essendon 8-8-56 in front of 46,323 at the SCG. I'll talk about my thoughts on Essendon shortly and the season ratings, because I don't think they should be disappointed. They should be disappointed with the loss, but they shouldn't be disappointed with the season. And the final game, well, save the best to last, as they say, and that's exactly what they did. The first elimination final, the last final of week 1 of the finals, was against Port Adelaide and the West Coast Eagles, and well, the Eagles were pretty convincing in the first half. It's fair to say they basically dominated the first half, but Port Adelaide, I guess, dominated a majority of the second half. There was only one goal in the third quarter, so it was a pretty low-scoring game. But it was because of that, and because of the way the game was played, these two teams drew at the end of normal time, with Port Adelaide 8-12-60 drawing with the West Coast Eagles 9-6-60. So that means that the game had to go to extra time, and oh geez, the extra time was absolutely breathtaking. Mackenzie able to save a point going through. Port Adelaide were in front in the last minute, but then a Shuey free kick that was kicked to Shannon Hearn, who then created the ball inside 50 and was able to get it inside 50. Created a shot after the siren, which of course Luke Shuey was caught high allegedly. And yeah, kick after the siren, Luke Shuey kicked it, and the West Coast Eagles won after the siren. The final score being Port Adelaide 10-16-76, defeated by the West Coast Eagles 12-6-78 in front of a big crowd, a healthy crowd of 41,172 at the Adelaide Oval. And Port Adelaide had a chance in the second period of extra time to put the game to bed. They missed a few shots, 16 behinds. Not good enough in a big game like this. And as a result, they unfortunately miss out on going through and advancing deep into finals. So it was an absolute crack. It was unbelievable, and I reckon everyone thinks that because yeah, it was just watching it on TV. It was just spectacular. So that is the results from finals week 1. What a great first week of finals. I know some people might argue that the games were a bit low scoring and a bit one-sided, but I really enjoyed the first week, and well, the second week is coming up this weekend. Cannot wait. Okay, time now to have a look at the results from the AFL Players Association Most Valuable Players Night, which involves 4 awards: the most courageous, the best first year player, the best captain, and then the important one of the night, which is the most valuable player, MVP, Lee Matthews Trophy, as it's also known as. So we'll start with that one. And Dustin Martin, well, was tipped favourite to win this award and did just that. Of course, he re-signed not long ago, just before the finals, with the Tigers. He actually smashed it. yeah, he got 1,333 votes, and the next best was Patrick Dangerfield from Geelong with 776. So it's fair to say that he absolutely smashed the MVP count, and as a result won the Lee Matthews Trophy for 2017. The most courageous player, Rory Sloane, was voted by his peers as the most courageous in 2017 with 188 votes. Expected to come back into the side for the preliminary final in a couple of weeks. The next best was Joel Selwood, who has won a couple of these, of course, from Geelong. 133 votes. He polled, I should say. And the best first-year player, Andrew McGrath, won the NAB Rising Star a couple of weeks ago. He also won this award. Had a final votes of 274. The next best was Sam Powell-Pepper from Port Adelaide, 250 votes. And then finally the best captain, Taylor Walker voted the best captain from the Crows, of course, 140 votes. Next best was Josh Kennedy, who of course narrowly missed out on the All-Australian team. Controversially, I should say, 125 votes he gained. Of course, all these awards voted by the AFL players, not the media, not the coaches, not some random on the street. They were voted by the players, and that's what's so unique about these awards, is that the players have their say and vote for who should win these awards. So that is the AFLPA MVP results. Congratulations to all winners. It was a fabulous watch on Fox Footy on Tuesday night. Of course, Dustin Martin, the next big question for him is will he take out the Brownlow medal as well? You would think he will, because he has had an unbelievable season. Okay, time now for my season ratings for the two teams knocked out in finals week 1. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I did my season ratings for the bottom 10 sides. I'm now going to do my season ratings each week for the sides who get knocked out. So of course next week I'll do the teams who get knocked out next week. I'll then do the teams who get knocked out in week 3, and then I'll also rate the grand final teams as well. But making a finals is definitely a pass. So these teams will definitely get a pass mark. Let's start with Port Adelaide, who finished 5th on the ladder. 14 wins, 8 losses, better than last year, clearly. In fact, they finished 10th in 2016 with 10 wins, 12 losses. It's no doubt they haven't had the best couple of years, but they got back into the finals, actually challenged for top 4 at one stage. I've given them a 7 out of 10. I think that's a fair result. The only criticism I have for them this season, and I suppose we shouldn't hold it to them too hard, because they were a side coming from the bottom 10 to make the finals in terms of their performance last year, but they did lose. They lost to 4 sides above them on the ladder, and that's something you need to beat those sides if you want to go further and make an impact and go deep into finals. They lost to the Adelaide Crows twice, they lost to GWS, they lost to the West Coast Eagles twice, although they beat them in the home and away season over there at Domain. Of course, we will exclude the final a little bit, of course, but they lost to the Eagles twice. Geelong, Essendon, Richmond and Melbourne they also lost to. So they were a bit inconsistent this season. Couldn't quite take it up to sides above them on the ladder, but had no problem beating the sides below them. An exception to that is Melbourne, who beat them quite strongly at the MCG during the home and away season. So, a big positive is Patrick Ryder back in the side. All-Australian ruckman. He had a phenomenal year. Dixon showed signs as well, and of course Ollie Wines continues to be a gun, and Sam Powell-Pepper, being the young player he is, he was pretty impressive as well. So a 7 out of 10, I think that's a fair reflection. They made the finals, pushed for top 4, very good season, but if they want to be up there further next season and challenging for a grand final spot at least, then they need to be beating sides above them on the ladder, because that's something they weren't able to do. They got smashed by the Crows, and that's something you wouldn't expect from a side in the top 8, even though the Crows are a very, very good outfit. So let's move on now to Essendon. 7th on the ladder, 12 wins, 10 losses, better than last year, clearly. Of course, we know that They finished 18th on the ladder last year. Got the wooden spoon, 3 wins, 19 losses. We know why they finished on the bottom of the ladder. But to do what they've done this year, I think has been remarkable, and that's why I've given them 8 out of 10. Now I know the elimination final was poor. It wasn't acceptable. It was quite disappointing. But if you put that aside, from where they were last season and from now, I think it's a remarkable effort to finish last and then make the finals the next season. And they played some very, very good football throughout the home and away season this year as well. And I guess the only criticism for me is that they are a bit inconsistent at times, they lost to Brisbane, and they also lost to the Dogs as well. They weren't able to beat the Dogs, so they had some inconsistency in their season. But Heppel to come back and lead the way he did this season was very, very good. Andrew McGrath, he was fantastic. Pick 1 in the draft last season, and has obviously won the NAB Rising Star and then won the best first year player. He's been exceptional this season. And of course Danaher continues to improve, and I'm sure he's going to be improved even more next season. So look, if I was a Bombers supporter, I wouldn't be too disappointed. I'd be disappointed with the loss on Saturday, but I wouldn't be disappointed with the season, because this season has been fantastic for the Bombers, and considering where they were last year and considering the saga and whatnot, to get all your players back and play the way they did this season. Get a few players in the All-Australian. I think it's fantastic. So, well done to the Bombers. 8 out of 10 for me, and I'm sure they're going to be back up in the finals next season. So that is my season ratings for the 2 teams knocked out in finals week 1. I'll be doing the same, of course, next week for the teams knocked out in week 2. Okay, time now for the 5 talking points of the week. Hasn't been on the show for the last couple of weeks, so it's great to have this segment back. And let's start with the first talking point, which is pretty brutal, to be honest, pretty hard. It's a choke if Richmond don't make the grand final. I'm not saying win the grand final, I'm just saying making the grand final. And look, I'm going to be very hard here and say, yes, I think it is a little bit of a choke if they lose the prelim and don't go through to the grand final, because they'll be versing either the Giants and the West Coast Eagles, 2 sides they've beaten this season at the MCG. They beat the Giants pretty convincingly, really. The Eagles, I think it was a closer game off memory. I'm not quite sure on that one. But, look, I think it would be a choke if they were to make the grand final. I think I'm expecting them, after what they did on Friday night, to make the grand final now. And none of this stuff about the bye, before the finals, that's something that clubs need to try and manage now and manage in their own way and what they think. There's no excuses for Richmond. They need to win in week 3 of the finals and go through the grand final. Otherwise, it's a choke, in my opinion. That does sound a bit hard, especially on a side that hasn't won its first final on the weekend since 2001, and yet we're already talking about grand final. But they're in the form at the moment where they can get there, and they've done themselves wonders, making the top 4 in the back end of the season, and winning, of course, the first week of the finals. The second talking point has to be the Shuey free kick. We have to talk about it. We have to. I have to give my opinion, I suppose. And look, it's no doubt there was a little bit of impact from Shuey to get the free kick in the vision, especially when you slow it down. I should say. Sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up here. But you got to think of it from an umpire's perspective, and that's what I'm thinking about. Fast game, everything happens so quickly. You can't pick up on every little detail, and the only thing that the umpire would have seen would have been the high. He wouldn't have taken any notice. He wouldn't have probably, and that's not anything bad against him, but he wouldn't have seen it. He wouldn't have probably expected and wouldn't have, I guess, seen that, Luke Shuey had an impact to get that free kick. He wouldn't have seen that. He wouldn't have spotted it. He would have just spotted the high, and as a result of that, I guess it's the correct decision when you think of it from that perspective, because you know, it's so fast, and, you know, anyone who tries to be an umpire would probably be in the same position, to be fair. So I know Mark Williams, you know, he says, you know, he said it made him vomit, which I thought was a disgraceful thing to say, because I don't think he would have picked up on it if he was out on the ground umpiring. You know, it's one of those things. I don't think we've seen a lot of it this season, and it's one of those things where you just don't pick up. It's, you know, it's the game's so fast that all you see is the high. And, you know, unfortunately, you know, for, I guess, Port Adelaide, Luke Shuey, you know, got the free kick and kicked the goal, and it put them through to a semi-final this week. But that didn't lose Port Adelaide the game, by the way. Their misses did. You know, 16 behinds. Had a couple of shots in the second period of extra time, as I mentioned, where they had a chance to put the game away, and they didn't. So, you know, the free kick hasn't just costed them the game here. But yeah, that's just my opinion on it. You have to look at it from an umpire's perspective. AFL did come out and say that it was a correct free kick. I'm not too sure, but, you know, you have to look at it from an umpire's point of view. Third talking point, extra time in home and away season for draws. I have always been of the opinion that we shouldn't add extra time at all, and I still stand by this, by the way, is that, yeah, we shouldn't add extra time to draws in the home and away season. We should just obviously give the 2 points to, you know, split the 4 points in half and give it to the sides who drew. And I'm still of that opinion, but it made me think a little bit, because I really enjoyed, especially the extra time on Saturday night, and it made me think, you know what, it just made me think, maybe we should have extra time after draws in the home and away season. You know, it was so thrilling on Saturday night that just for the theatre and to get a result, it would be, you know, it would be thrilling if we had it in the home and away season. I still think about it a little bit, but my opinion still stands. But, you know, it was very, very interesting on Saturday night. In fact, it was only, I think, the third draw in the finals history, I think. Yeah, it was just absolutely thrilling. What is it about draws this season? That was, what, the fourth draw encountered this season? It's just incredible, the amount of draws we've had in season 2017. But no, look, I don't think we should have extra time in the home and away. Keep it sacred. I'm a bit of a traditionalist, but then again, really enjoyed the extra time in finals. And I guess maybe you know, that's, I guess, why we shouldn't have it in the home and away season, because the extra time is just specifically unique to the final series. Second last talking point is Jake Stringer leaving the Western Bulldogs. This has been a real big topic over the last couple of weeks since the Western Bulldogs exited the 2017 season without playing finals. Look, from what I'm hearing from the media, I can only assume that the media is reporting this as factual information. It seems like he wants to leave the club, and if he wants to leave the club and doesn't want to be there, then the Western Bulldogs will have to trade him, because you just can't keep a player there that doesn't want to be there. You know, that causes all kinds of attitude problems and can affect the whole group, and just keep the side down for as long as possible until the players actually left. I hope he doesn't leave. I hope he wants to be there, because from a Western Bulldogs point of view and from a supporter point of view, I think he's got tremendous talent. You know, he hasn't hit the peak since his 2015 form, but he's still only 23, and the Dogs have been playing him in all sorts of positions that just don't suit him, such as, you know, naming him at the centre half forward, you know, full forward area, where he's not a key forward. He's more of a burst, flank, pocket, even midfield type player. He's a fast and enduring agility, speedy player in some sense. But you know, this year has been haunted with a bit of injury concerns from a Stringer point of view. But look, there's been all sorts of talks that he might go to Geelong. Essendon might be. Look, I think Richmond's been put in the mix a little bit. You know, if he wants to leave, then the Dogs have to let him go and try and get a negotiation sorted. But geez, I hope he stays there, because you know, because I'm a Western Bulldogs supporter, and I believe that he still has talent. He's only young. Final talking point is the Gold Coast Suns should go after Ken Hinkley. Well, if the Gold Coast Suns think that he is the man, then they should throw everything they can at him. Now, it doesn't mean that Ken Hinkley's going to leave the Port Adelaide Football Club and go to the Gold Coast Suns. It doesn't mean that the Suns are going to get him. But if they believe that Ken Hinkley's the right man, and they truly 100% believe this, then they have to go after him and try to get him in as any way possible. Jared Waitley made this similar point on AFL 360 the other night. The Gold Coast Suns, this is the time now where they really need the best coach. It can't be another coach failure for them. They can't get another coach that's not going to deliver them success or deliver them finals or deliver them some sort of improvement. If it happens again, that club probably will leave the competition. It will go bust because it's failed so many times, especially under two coaches, and especially after so much kind of promise and talk that they're going to make finals by this year, they're going to make finals by that year. If the Gold Coast Suns believe Ken Hinkley's the right man, go after him. It doesn't matter if he has 1 year on his contract. Go after him, inquire about him, see what you can do. Do everything possible to get him, and if he doesn't come, then so be it. Move on to the next person. But if they believe he's the right man, they need to throw everything at him. Time now to have a look at the Week 2 finals matches and tips. Let's start with the second semi-final on Friday night, Friday the 15th of September, 7:50 p.m. It is Geelong taking on the Sydney Swans. It's going to be a ripper at the MCG. You can watch, of course, this final and all finals on 7, and also you can watch it on Fox Footy as well. Geelong, the Swans have won 4 of the last 5 against the Cats, including the preliminary final at this venue, the MCG, last year, where the Swans came out and convincingly won it. Look, the Cats finished second. They finished in that position for a reason. They've got the second chance for a reason. I don't think it's going to be as one-sided as people are suggesting, but I think the Swans will win this match. They've been the informed side of the competition. They just stepped it up a gear last week. You'd be expecting them to win it, but if they lose, then that's going to be a big story. So, the Swans for me, but I'm expecting a bit of fight from the Cats. I'm not expecting the performance that they dished up last week, and if they dished up that same performance, then I'd be pretty disappointed for them because, like I said, they've finished second, and they've finished for a reason. They've been a good side this season, been a bit inconsistent at times, but they've got that double chance for a reason, and they need to show that they actually deserved it and earned it in this final. Saturday the 16th of September, the first semi-final will be played. This one is starting at 7:25 p.m. It is the GWS Giants and the West Coast Eagles at Spotless Stadium. You can watch it on 7 and Fox Footy. The GWS Giants have won the last 2 against the Eagles, both in 2016. The Eagles won the last 3 before that, including a 1-point victory last year at this venue. I'm expecting a good game. GWS will have Munford and Cameron out, which is a very, very big story. You would expect Stevie J will probably come into the side for the game this week, be included back in the side after getting dropped for the qualifier. I'm going to tip the Giants, even though they probably are going to be a bit in demand without Munford and Cameron. They'll probably play a bit small in the forward line. The West Coast Eagles will no doubt take it up to them just like they did against Port Adelaide, but I think the road will come to an end pretty narrowly, and I think the Giants will just get through. It should be a thriller. Of course, if the Giants get through, they will verse Richmond at the MCG in Week 3 in a prelim, and of course, if the Swans win for me, then they of course verse the Crows in the prelims next week, and vice versa if either Geelong or West Coast win. So, my tips for Week 2 of the finals, the Sydney Swans and the GWS Giants, the 2 Sydney teams, will get up and win for me. So, that is the Week 2 finals matches and tips. It's going to be another cracking week of finals, and we're getting very, very close now to finding out who will be in that one day in September. And that is it for this week's episode of Bev's Footy Show. It's been a cracking episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Of course, don't forget to like, comment, share this video if you enjoyed it. And don't forget to subscribe as well to keep up to date with the remaining episodes of this show. Not far away from wrapping up this show for 2017. Of course, the grand final just a few weeks away now. So yeah, subscribe to get the remaining episodes of this show and this series of 2017. And until next week, enjoy week 2 of the finals. If your team is still alive, I hope they get up for you. And yeah, bye for now.